Hello, my name is Erica, and I'm the Dyslexic Trekkie. Before I get started, I'd like to welcome all the new subscribers. Your interest really helps out, and Ensign Bradbury has agreed that for every 100 subscribers, he'll let you all hear one of his kitten's logs. In Investigations, Neelix starts a morning show, A Briefing with Neelix, to help bring some more activity to Voyager's life. When told his show is all fun and no substance, he begins an investigation that leads Neelix to a conspiracy on the ship. He ultimately discovers Paris has been used to find a spy for Seska, almost ruining a plan to stop the spy. In Deadlock, Voyager is trapped in an anomaly that splits the ship into two identical ships. Unfortunately, it hasn't done the same to the antimatter and the warp core, leaving one energy source for two ships. Captain Janeway has to help find a solution to the two-ship problem. Investigation starts off with Neelix, because it's largely a Neelix episode. I'm not sorry. I like him. I enjoy his part in the series. He has this morning's show because he designated himself the morale officer, something Janeway just goes with, and he feels the show can help brighten people's day a bit. Again, this is only an option because Janeway sees the value in what he does. She gives him so much leeway that it feels sometimes that he forgets Voyager is ostensibly a military ship. His intentions are good, but I have to agree with Kim. It's all dessert, no dinner. That's where his investigation comes in. And yes, I'm rushing through this because, say it with me, this video isn't about him. Neelix finds out someone wishes to depart Voyager. Of course, he goes straight to Captain Janeway. Janeway appears to be unusually cold in her response to the news. She, with Tuvok's confirmation of security safety, says it's Tom Paris. I think it's clear Neelix isn't buying it and speaks with Tom. I still don't think he buys Tom's explanation, even then. Nevertheless, we see a deeply moving tribute to Tom as he leaves. I look forward to reviewing this episode and analyzing Tom Paris, but in this review, I need to focus on Captain Janeway. I know I didn't strictly have to watch the whole episode for the review. Janeway's part is rather small, but I couldn't resist. It's too strong of an episode to just breeze through. After a disaster aboard the ship, disabling Voyager, Captain Janeway finds out that Tom has been kidnapped by the Kazon. One guess which group. Neelix decides to investigate who may have tipped off the Nystrom and stumbles on more than he bargained for. After some extensive investigation, Neelix reports that Tom Paris appears to have sent hidden communications to the Kazon, making him out to be the traitor to Voyager. And this is where the story with Captain Janeway really comes in. She hears Neelix's report and questions him on how he found the transmissions. Janeway is not happy. It turns out Tom's whole shtick of being the screw-up again was just a ruse to give reason for him to leave, and hopefully find out who has been working with the Kazon. Neelix's investigation created a sense of security for the spy they can't afford. Captain Janeway asks Neelix to make it look like he's still investigating the matter. She gives him an out. He's not an official officer, and this is dangerous. Of course he agrees. While Neelix does his thing, Tom comes in under attack from the Kazon. Tom tells them about their planned attack, and action ensues. Tom Paris is saved at the very last minute. Neelix kicks ass. This guy is vaporized, and the Kazon are foiled again. The story ends with a welcome interview with Tom and some touching moments from him to share his feelings about Voyager and the crew. I don't usually do this, but I have to ask everyone to go rewatch this episode. It's so good and has so many layers to it. Deadlock begins with Ensign Wildman going into labor after Neelix pushes the poor woman to fix half the mess hall. I love how happy everyone is at her going into labor. The poor woman's been pregnant for 2 years. The whole crew is in anticipation. The girl is about to have 170 aunts and uncles, all asking the eternal question, what's taking so long? Then everything goes sideways. First, it's the Vidian. They've shown up since the first introduction, but I haven't had much reason to talk about them in this series. Voyager looks for a place to hide, and then a science happens. Just when Naomi Wildman is born through transporter birth, Voyager enters a nebula to hide. This will be relevant. Very shortly after, the ship starts experiencing odd draining to their systems. It turns out the ship has been duplicated, but the warp core hasn't. The crew won't find this out for a good long while. Until then, nothing makes sense. Poor baby Wildman isn't doing well. But say with me again, this story isn't about these people. No, for Captain Janeway, this is a long and complicated scientific mystery, one I think she would love if the stakes weren't so high. We see Ensign Kim dies, and so does Ensign Wildman's baby. During one of the bursts, Captain Janeway is hurt. Lieutenant Paris tries to see how she is, and Captain Janeway dismisses the help. All in all, she doesn't have time to worry about herself. As she hears the reports of all the damage and issues aboard the ship, Captain Janeway visibly shows the stress of staying in control. I'm glad Tuvok was the one who told her about the death of the baby. His ability to give the information with control is something I think she needed. She knows him well enough to understand what his "I regret to inform you" means. He's always a stabilizing force for her, and this is a time she needs it the most. It's a silent exchange, one I interpret by how they interact. No change in her demeanor and his steady communication. Just a second's pause before going on. But of course nothing's okay. The bursts continue, and the bridge is damaged beyond use for the time. Captain Janeway refuses to leave the bridge, convinced she can seal the breach. She fails and nearly doesn't escape. She sees a shadow of the other side, the second voyage where everything's fine. That Voyager sees the echo of the ship where everything is going to hell in a handbasket. Kim is fine, the baby is alive, and there's 2 Kesses. This next part is totally irrelevant to the analysis, but there's something I want to know. Captain Janeway made a baby blanket. As a crafter, I want to know how. Was it quilted, crocheted, or knitted? I want to know. We hear from Cass what she remembers, and we see Captain Janeway solve the scientific mystery. She knows there's something that needs solved, and now she has the luxury of relishing the puzzle. Of course, this isn't about having fun with it, but just being able to really work out the scientific puzzle. It takes some work, but the intact Voyager manages to send a kind of message to the damaged one. The last thing they need is a shrill whistle going through their comm system, but it does get their attention. And then we get a moment I love. 2 Janeways talking to one another. Yes, another ship would have come up with this, but remember, the solution was hers, not a science officer, because she is the science officer. They try to merge the ships, something I'm not sure could have worked. They're not the same ship anymore. For reasons not clear, their plan doesn't work. Captain Janeway goes to talk to her counterpart on the other Voyager. Just imagine what it would be like to bounce off ideas with yourself. Think of you talking with you while sharing ideas. This is something that can only really be done in this type of show. It's something I love about science fiction as a whole. Yes, the flashy space stuff is cool, but creating character moments like this is something unique and wonderful. I don't go into the techie part of Star Trek often because so many have already gone there. I love characters and how they handle things. This is what I live for. The captain of the damaged ship tries to trick the other Janeway to go back so damaged ship Janeway can self-destruct her Voyager. She had to know the other captain would catch on. That ruse would have never worked. Intact ship Janeway returns to her ship only to find out that the Vidian are near and they attack Voyager. The healthy ship, that is. Once boarded, the Vidian do what they do best and start their harvest. Captain Janeway from the attacked ship does the only thing she can do. She self-destructs her ship, but not before sending Kim and baby Wildman across the breach. Captain Janeway greets the Vidian seconds before the ship self-destructs. I debated a long time on whether or not I should add investigations to the Janeway Analyzed series. Her part is small, and I feel like there's not a lot to say. But it goes back to the episode Threshold. As I said, it's when she brings her first lamb in. Her relationship with Tom Paris has gone from her trying to help give him a place on the ship to her needing his help to solve a problem. And when Neelix catches on, finding a way to use his mistake to help flush out the spy. Captain Janeway has the capacity to earn the trust of these different people. It's how she holds the ship together. Yes, the vast majority of the crew are Starfleet and would likely follow her because of that, but Captain Janeway has these auxiliary members, plus someone who is only in the crew because she made a place for him. She has the ability to see people's worth and to make a space for them to show that worth. This isn't pure altruism on her part. It's practical and pragmatic. Compassion can be that. She isn't just letting people stow along on Voyager. She's saying we can use you here. You can belong here. Neelix and Tom are prime examples of this. They both go from being some of the more questionable choices to integral parts of the crew. I wasn't really looking forward to reviewing Deadlock, and not just because I knew keeping the Janeway straight would be tricky. No, this episode doesn't just have 2 Janeways, but 2 psychologies. I'm reviewing one character at a time for a reason. On damaged Voyager, we see Captain Janeway's self-sacrificing side. I was tempted to say reckless, but I don't think that's fair. She always puts herself in danger for a reason, but she has a tendency to set herself aside to an extreme. The more dangerous the situation, the less she thinks of herself. To a degree that makes sense. She's the captain, and the whole crew is her responsibility. It feels like she forgets that she is a part of that crew too. In the attacked crew, we see her ability to work out complex problems. As I said, we don't have a designated chief science officer on Voyager. In part, I think it's because the mission they were first set out on didn't require one, but also because Voyager genuinely doesn't need one. Captain Janeway is a top-tier scientist who just also happens to be a strong captain. It's a big reason why I love her so much. I love science of all kinds. I happen to pick psychology for personal reasons, but her passion for science is one part of her I genuinely get. She works through the problem of how to contact the other crew and then how to separate the ships without ever forgetting the real stakes. As I said in the previous Janeway Analyzed, I love when we get to see her just be a science officer, and this is one of them. But then we have the tragedy. When push comes to shove, even though her ship is the one still intact, she self-destructs to save her counterpart. Kim and Naomi are saved too, but the loss is devastating. There was no other good solution. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any thoughts, feelings, or ideas, please share in the comments below. If you notice any spelling or reading mistakes in this video, please comment within the first week of posting for the chance to choose a future topic. Again, my name is Erica, and I'm the Dyslexic Trekkie. In case people are wondering where Ensign Bradbury was through this whole thing, he was sitting right beside me, fast asleep. I'm not gonna put any disciplinary actions in for him this time. He had a rough night.